Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting edge conversation while exploring the quantum possibilities. And, we're pressing the edges of the possibilities tonight with our guests. And I'm going to let Augie tell you about them. But first, I'm very excited, by the way. First, as usual, I want to thank you guys for being here with us. Thank you for, being with us over the years, for the lively chat, for the love, for the super chats, for telling your friends about us. And, 2020 is the year of transformation. So we want to invite you to join us on the Mastermind Connection. It happens every Sunday at 2 p.m. A remarkable group of people with incredible intention and hearts come together, and we agree upon a focus. Sometimes it's dangerous weather patterns, sometimes it's calamities, sometimes during the elections, we were intending for peace during the elections in the United States, which happened. And we're not the only people intending for hurricanes to go away. But we have to tell you, there's some remarkable things that happen. We come together and we unify our thought and we put it out into the quantum realm where we believe it takes shape, and we're getting some feedback that it actually does take shape. So if you want to join us, send us an email to the Mastermind Connection. Don't forget THE at gmail.com. Augie will send you the link. You can jump in and join us on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, see if you like it. And if you like it, we have a lively discussion at the second hour at 3 p.m. And sometimes we have a Pleiadian who stops in through channeling and has some really cool words for us. So, all right, Augie, tell us about our cool guest tonight. This is very exciting.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We have the Phantom Detectives with us. This is a crew of 3 people that is looking behind the curtain of what we can see here in the physical, and there is more out there than what the mind can imagine. I want to say a few things about each one of them, so I'll try not to be too long-winded. But we have Joshua Cherise. I hope I pronounced that name right. I got a bad habit of butchering names sometimes. And Rick Warner. And last but not least, Melissa Ferrazzano. And that was with an Italian accent, by the way. And they are paranormal investigators. First, let me say a few things about them, and that is Joshua Cherise has been interested in the paranormal for a long time, and all the way back to a TV program, Unsolved Mysteries, with Robert Stack. Do we all remember that one? I sure do, because I love that show. And also in 2020, he founded Phantom Detectives to help people going through paranormal experiences and to make sense from it and maybe get a little more peace in their life. He has investigated many sites like the Gettysburg battlefield and many others, and that could get interesting. There are still people walking around there with 100-and-some-year-old guns on their shoulder. There are pictures from that. I've seen them. So that could get interesting. Now, Rick Warner is the other one here. He is the executive director of investigations for Extraterrestrial Research Center and also a field investigator for MUFON, plus the U.S. ambassador to the Italian UFO Federation, FUI. And I think we need to hear more about that when we get going here. He had a UFO encounter and some also ghostly visitations. And we're looking forward to hear about that. And also, he is a martial art instructor. That has a special place in my heart because martial arts is something that should be taught in grade school. Think of the advancement of kids if they had the mindset of a successful martial art practitioner. That would be phenomenal. And also we have Melissa Ferrazzano. Was that pretty close?
You're spot
Anyway,
on.
all right. She's a psychic medium, and since very young, she has had contact with spirits. She studied several healing modalities, and she holds a certificate in psychic and advanced mediumship development, and gives readings for people. And I'm sure these gifts will come in handy when it comes to this part about finding paranormal aberrations and possibly departed ones in some of the sites that you're going to. And up front, I'll also tell you right now what you can find them on the internet. That is phantomdetectives.org, and also on darkmatternews.com. That is the group. And also Rick Warner can be reached at ufoinvestigator1@gmail.com, and Melissa at Ferrazzano at verizon.net. That's A Ferrazzano, that's 2 R's and 2 Z's. So there we go, and welcome to the show, all of you.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It is an absolute pleasure to be here, and we're looking forward to talking with you tonight about our team and our investigations.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
So I have like a crayon question, one of the beginning questions. How did this all come about for you? How did you come together, and how did you begin ghost hunting?
Well, for me, I originally got my start in the supernatural by watching Robert Stack Unsolved Mysteries in 1988. And then in 2002, I had the opportunity to investigate the General Wayne Inn, which is called the Inn of the 17 Ghosts, with the late parapsychologist named Micheline Mayer. She had a team based out of Philadelphia at that time. And the General Wayne Inn is one of Philadelphia's oldest historic buildings. Benjamin Franklin stayed there, the Marquis de Lafayette, Edgar Allan Poe wrote several stanzas of The Raven there, as well as other big-time dignitaries. And then in 2002, with the local Philadelphia team at that time, I had went ahead and went down to the basement area of the wine cellar with, and I started taking pictures of, and reports down there are the people report seeing a Hessian soldier from the Revolutionary War still residing down there. And in one of the photos that I took in my digital camera at that time, basically, we saw some weird green and yellow streaks of light in them, basically. And I kind of, it was right in the general area where this apparition of this Hessian soldier was seen back in the early 1900s and as well as the early 2000s. So that kind of got my start. And then in 2014, I actually started thinking about, like, there's a place called Summerwind Mansion in Wisconsin. It is a well-known Wisconsin's most notorious haunted house. It dates back to 1914. And there I purchased the original blueprints for Summerwind, which were quite hard to do. And I bought them from the brother of Ginger Hinshaw, who lived there, the brother of the person that lived there in the 1970s. And she, an investigator by the name of Craig Nearing, and I started talking, and we created the Summerwind Restoration Society in July of 2014 in an effort to restore, rebuild, and relaunch Summerwind Mansion in Wisconsin as a haunted bed and breakfast. And Craig Nearing had access to the owners of the property. I had the blueprints, so I sent him a copy of the blueprints so he can work on site. And he started doing public investigations and campouts and events. And over the last 7 years, Craig and I still work on that project. We are now to a point now where Travel Channel and Discovery are interested in airing a future updated version of the Summerwinds season 1, episode 2 of A Haunting, where basically it would be where Craig's team would be featured, and it will go back and forth between past events. So that trailer is available on Fox Valley Ghost Hunters TikTok page. I can link that to you guys later. And then after finding this Summerwind Restoration Society, I started, investigating with a previous team. And that previous team, we stayed together for about 2 years. But unfortunately, I felt we weren't progressing the way that we needed to. So I went ahead in August 20th, 2020, and decided to start a new team with Sasha Zazorek. She is a Civil War reenactor. She is a sound engineer. She is a basically a paranormal inventor. She invents paranormal equipment. And basically, she's also a historical reenactor in Gettysburg for the Union Army. So we decided to go ahead and start basically, social media cards, business pages. We started conducting investigations under the new banner. And we did our first kind of pre-investigation at a place called the Selma Mansion on October 6, 2020, with a fellow by the name of Brian J. Cano, who was there at that time. And Brian J. Cano is a well-known tech manager on The Haunted Collector with a paranormal investigator by the name of John Zaffis, who is the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren. And basically, Brian was there and he taught Sasha and I how to set up some of the equipment, how to conduct EVPs, how to run the ghost box, how to review evidence. So Brian was a great teacher. Then we finally realized that, hey, we can take this knowledge from what Brian did and do our first investigation as Phantom Detectives on December 9th, 2020 at the Sanderson Museum. And the Sanderson Museum is a very interesting location. It basically, it's named after a fellow by the name of Christian Sanderson. He was a writer, he was a poet, he was a musician, he was a well-known collector of many signatures from many top people, including Helen Keller, and anybody by the name of Sitting Bull. And inside the museum, there's also a bandage that was on President Abraham Lincoln when he was headed back to Chicago. His body, after he was unfortunately killed by John Wilkes Booth at Ford Theater in 1865. So there's a bandage in there. There's a purse from the Jenny Way house from Gettysburg in there. And then we started doing investigations there. And the first investigation that we did, we actually caught some interesting evidence on the SLS camera against a violin case. The SLS camera, what that does, it's a device where you basically put it against a solid wall, and it starts mapping, it starts drawing stick figures like an anomaly. And we actually captured several SLS camera images from that first investigation. And then we also captured, basically some weird orbs. But at the same time we captured these orbs, we had the security cameras going off. We had our EMF, our Rook EMF meters, our K2 and our Mel meters going off. The batteries were drained from those. Then at the same time, we also had our REM pod going off. So when you can add layers upon layers of stuff going off at once, that means you got something there that's unseen to the naked eye. And after we did that,
we actually have some audio, right, from the Sanderson Museum.
Yes.
Yeah. Mac, do you want to play that? Have to get the okay from the boss.
Yeah, that's very descriptive, actually, because
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, that's very descriptive because in the first part of it, I can't hear much, but in the last part, I can really hear something back there. So listen really close.
Are you married?
I didn't hear anything. Did you guys hear it?
I heard
Yeah.
something that said no,
heard-
like no.
I
It sounded like at the very end.
The very end.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's at the very end
Hell
of it.
no. So let's go to the Betsy Ross house, right, on 4-2.
Yep.
Let's go to that one. See if we can hear the puppy.
Right, sitting across one run. If you don't want to be in this room, please cross.
I heard it. He growled.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear it?
Yep.
Right, sitting across one run. If you don't want us to be in this room, please cross.
Yeah, I would leave right away.
You could definitely hear a growl on there that's really deep, and it really carries out.
I'd be out of there. Let's try one more. Okay, I didn't hear that one. That was really creepy.
To me, it sounds like a snarl in the middle of it.
I'd be like,
That's-
let me get my purse. Excuse me. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Oh boy.
what
No,
do you got?
no,
think,
No,
what do you,
Melissa, oh, go ahead.
Mhm.
thank you. What do you guys think these things are? I mean, I'm not big on paranormal. I mean, they came to me when I was a child, and when I was old enough to figure out what it was, I intentionally shut it down. On occasion, I'll open it back up for select people, right? Fingers crossed. Um, but even in this chapel, I'm in a bed and breakfast in West Virginia, and this is a very Catholic, iconic chapel, and I wouldn't have expected, anything to be in here, but there is a spirit in here. So it's kind of interesting that everything is happening synchronistically now. So what do you guys think it is? I mean, whatever it's in here is very playful. It waits until I'm in a weird position, like exercising, and then I'll catch a glimpse, not anything normal, like when I'm just walking around. So I feel like it's very playful, but what do you think it is? Are these dead people hanging around? Are they
Well,
figment of my imagination?
well, we have a clear protocol. We have four types of spirits that are listed on our website, phantomdetectives.org, under articles. There is the four classifications of hauntings are, there's the first one is an intelligent haunting, something that can directly interact with the living. That is something like say example, you see something move by itself, or you see a light go off on a REM pod. That is an intelligent haunting, something that is directly interacting with the living. There's also a residual haunting, which is like a tape recorder that plays itself over and over again. Like think of Gettysburg and the battle when basically 3 days in 1863, 60,000 people lost their lives, and there's a lot of place memory there. That's like a residual haunting. It's like a tape recorder that plays itself. It's a past event that's embedded in the environment. Then there's also inhuman entities, which are like, negative things like you heard on that growl, like things from the abyss and things from basically that are from a whole different dimension. Inhuman spirits. There's inhuman hauntings, and then there's also the other type, which is the final one, which is one called poltergeist, which is called noisy ghosts. They move, different things around. A case up in the Washington State with my friend Keith Linder, who actually had levitating plants, for example, up called the Bothell Hell House up in Washington. That was a very interesting, thing. He wrote a book about that too. So that's a good example of a poltergeist, things that just throwing things around all over the room. So there's how we really define what, those four types of hauntings are.
Yeah. But let me ask Melissa here, a psychic medium, maybe you get some different impressions from it. Do you feel anything of personalities behind it when, you hear the sound and you say, oh, yeah, that's nice, or I'm out of here. But is there anything to personalities that you may pick up from those people by having the gifts that you have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I go into a location and I start tuning into the various spirits that reside there, they will show you that they're either happy to see you or that they may be very much guarding their space. We've been to the different locations that I've investigated with Phantom Detectives so far. Some spirits were very welcoming. And others, I walked in and like I mentioned right away, they're saying, this is my home. What are you doing here? You're invading my space. So our number one goal is to go into every location respectfully, respecting not only the homeowners, respecting that that's their place, but the spirits that are there, respecting that it's also their space. We don't ever provoke. It's we go in there kindly, giving them a chance to communicate with us however they see fit. Using the various equipment that we use. What we try to do is verify with our equipment the different things that I myself am picking up on. If I'm tuning into the spirit of a woman, we try to see if our equipment, especially when we do EVP sessions, to see if our recorders may pick up a woman's voice, to verify that. But the spirits definitely show you their personalities, and like I said, whether they welcome us being there, or whether they're saying, hey, you're invading my territory. But like I said, going in there very respectfully, that's always our ultimate goal. And that definitely makes our investigations go much more smoothly, coming in there with that, attitude. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever cut a deal with them? I mean, like the other day up where I'm staying, it was like my dog was on the bed. She's a 4-pound chihuahua. It was like somebody scooted her along and she jumped off, she went, oop, and jumped off the bed. And I was like, that was weird. And then I said, look, don't touch my dog, right? That's the deal. Don't touch my dog. So do you ever cut deals with them?
I don't think we have had to as of yet. I have not had any experiences as of yet of being touched or, anything where I felt threatened. So, I'm wondering if I'm going to encounter that during future investigations. But as of right now, I have had great experiences so far. So I guess we'll see what happens with that going forward. Now, I can only speak for myself. I'm not sure. I've been with Phantom Detectives for a few short months, 5 months now. So I'm not sure if Joshua or Rick, if you've had any of those experiences yet, where you've gotten a certain vibe going into these locations, and if you've had to say, hey, like it's mentioned, cut a deal, or boundaries.
Yeah. I mean, like when we went into this guy's apartment in Philadelphia there, and we went into this guy's bedroom where he sleeps at night, we could definitely feel some negative energy that was in that room. And it was like, it wasn't just negative energy. It was almost like a kind of a sick-like feeling. And I remember after the investigation, we all felt kind of a little bit ill, like, we were maybe coming down with something like the flu, or just feeling, weak and tired and really drained. So there are some places out there that will really, put your body to the test, test you sometimes mentally and also on the physical level. And, sometimes you have a combination of spirits that are in one place. I mean, with the sessions that we had and the questions that we asked, we were able to come up with that there was about 8 spirits living in that were in that apartment. And some were very warm and welcoming, but at the same time, we had some angry spirits that were there at the same time. A young guy that was there that, took his own life, and running the ghost box session, our spirit box, making an internal recording of that, running the AM/FM waves. We had spirits latching onto that, communicating with us. And we were picking up a very angry woman on there that was using some pretty bad profanities that you just wouldn't hear on radio channels, because they wouldn't allow that anyway. So right away, when I heard that, I thought, wow, this is an angry spirit that clearly didn't want us there. And we have been in other places and other investigations where sometimes we go into a place and we all feel like there's positive energy that's in the space, in the room. And then there's times that we could also sense that there's some kind of negative energy that's running around. So you sometimes you can get a mixture of both. Some friendly spirits that, hey, they're warm and welcoming, that they're okay with you being in their house. And there's some that just would rather you not be there. It's like they would rather you just get out and pack up and leave.
So
Do you feel some of that?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Nori.
Take a number. So poltergeists. So there's specific situation that I'm thinking of, and it was this person who was a collector, and this person's home was like a museum and an antique store, stuff from all around the world. Anybody who is, sensitive or empathic, you walk in and you go, whoa, what is going on here? He called it the curse. And it would move his art. It would throw some art down on the floor. It would throw things over the hill outside. It would take some of his physical belongings. Can they take physical belongings into the non-physical? I mean, is that even possible?
I don't know about taking physical things
Right.
and moving them into, necessarily another dimension, but I will tell you this. So some spirits will want to communicate with you, maybe like, through an EVP session, or if we're using dowsing rods in our investigation, which we've had great luck with, by the way. And then you have the ones that are very physical, that want to move objects, that want to throw things. We haven't really had, really too much activity with spirits like throwing things off shelves and stuff like that. Although we do realize that happens. There are some spirits that want to make themselves known by throwing things. And there's some that are actually, there's so much negative energy where when you get to the point where people are getting hurt from maybe an ashtray that got thrown across the room, or plates that got thrown off the shelves, and somebody actually got hit with those objects, it gets a little scary when those things happen.
Yeah, we did have a situation during one of our investigations where our belongings were moved.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, we were investigating the not the Selma Mansion. It was the Sanderson Museum in Chadds-Ford, Pennsylvania, and the four of us were on the second floor investigating. And the place was locked up tight. Nobody could gain access into the museum. And Rick and myself went downstairs for a second, and we found that many of our belongings, we're talking our clothing, our hoodies, our equipment, boxes of equipment, many things were blocking the stairs. There's no explanation. I was looking for that logical explanation how this could have happened, and we could not find a logical explanation as to why. It was like a spirit wanted to block us, to barricade us from coming down the stairs.
Yeah, and remember too, we were asking around, like we went upstairs and we were thinking like, okay, well, we didn't move it. Maybe it was Joshua or Sasha, maybe one of them, moved a lot of belongings at the bottom of the stairs. As a matter of fact, there was so much stuff at the bottom of the stairs, we had to climb over all this equipment because we have a lot of paranormal investigation equipment. And I thought to myself, like, who in the heck, why would they put that there at the bottom of the stairs to make it harder for us? Now we got to climb over this stuff. Well, it turned out that, I'm thinking like maybe it was a joke or whatever, but no one's made claims to putting those objects there. Mm-hmm. And none of us knew like how they actually got there. Well, what actually ended up being was that there was, since it wasn't one of us, then it had to be some spirit that actually took those objects and moved it at the bottom of the stairs. And when we were asking questions using the dowsing rods, like, to try to find out, who, if somebody actually moved those, we were getting positive answers that was moved. And, I remember asking one of the questions, like, did you actually put those objects at the bottom of the stairs, because you were trying to trap us upstairs and so we couldn't go down? And the answer was no, but basically, it was trying to thought it would be funny as a joke, the spirit to move these objects.
And also, I would like to add on top of that, when we were doing EVP session in some of the rooms, one of the voices that came up on that thing was says, "Be afraid." I clearly heard that, like after reviewing that audio, I was in the Ethan Allen room and it says, "Be afraid." So that to me, when you can validate like a physical, actual like bags being moved in front of it, all of us were upstairs in the violin room. And basically when you have an EVP and dowsing rods on top of that, that adds a lot of credence to basically that I think it could have been either Mr. Sanderson himself or potentially his mother, Hannah, who died in the museum in 1946-47.
Wow. Wow. So, Mysteria Dragonheart in the chat wants to know when you're returning to Cardi Manor for a follow-up investigation.
You mean Cardi Manor? We have not gotten there yet at this time, but we are definitely going to look into this location as we do with everybody. Hit the contact form on the website, and if this is a location suggestion that you feel that you would like us to look into, as the case manager, I'm kind of like the starting point of all of the investigation location suggestions. So you could definitely hit the button and I'll research it and look it up. And also, then what I'll do is if it's a potential like place that's near us or eventually we travel in the future, we'll go ahead and contact the location and see if we can schedule in a paranormal investigation at the Cardi Manor and basically have our director of client relations, Rick, interview the person when we get to that point in time to do that. So.
Sounds good.
That's an interesting process. You guys sound like a well-oiled machine.
We are.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen,
we've been talking about ghosts so far, but there are other things that can make themselves known and be apparent, actually. What about interdimensional entities? Have you any, I think I want to direct this one to Rick because he's also heading up a UFO investigative organization. Now, UFOs or extraterrestrials, they are not ghosts, but they also have a way to phase themselves out so you cannot see them.
Yes, that's right.
Have you drawn any connection between maybe possibly some of the stuff that you see in rooms could be interdimensional entities that come in, have a look, and then leave again?
Well, it's a possibility. So, so I'm the executive director for ERC, which stands for Extraterrestrial Research Center. And for those of you that might be interested, you can check out my website at www.erc2.com to check out my website. And if you also have a sighting or event that you would like to submit a form there to have possibly get your case investigated, feel free to do so. But I had a gentleman that submitted a case to us. And this guy's actually a paranormal investigator. He's been doing it for quite a while. And he goes out to the cemetery in Chicago because he's had a lot of really good experiences picking up paranormal activity. Some people have been grabbed there at the cemetery. He mentioned that they sometimes get pushed down to the ground. Or so, it sounds like there's some friendly activity and maybe some not so friendly activity. And he sets up several cameras in the dark, camera tree, he calls it. And these cameras point in multiple directions. And he sends me this footage, the most incredible thing ever. And I could just say it was this big mass that looks like a portal. It was like something you would see watching like one of the Star Trek shows where it's this big round blob looking thing and would actually morph itself into different shapes. And I thought, wow, this is really, really cool. So, and he thought, that, maybe this is something extraterrestrial. And it can very well be. Well, basically what I did is I ran the whole video back. Me and my director of research, we ran back the footage, ran it in slow motion and frame by frame and going through looking at everything. And, weird things happened. Like, one of the paranormal investigators turned on a flashlight in that area and the light actually bounce back in her face, like someone on the other end was just taking that light and saying, I don't want it in my face, and pushing it back towards her, which was interesting. And I was able to pick that up in the video as well. But, you know, sometimes when you're investigating a case, you know, what you come up with, it's not going to always be cookie cutter concrete evidence. So I really couldn't say that it was something extraterrestrial of nature. There is a very good possibility that it was, but also, you know, I'm not convinced that it wasn't something paranormal of maybe some type of, you know, something that would, you know, goes to another dimension, in the spirit world or something. You know, I'm really not sure on that. So, but it was very interesting to see this object just morph into different shapes. So I think they could definitely, you know, it's an example where I believe, you know, something extraterrestrial and the paranormal can definitely cross over, and, you know, in the same investigation.
Yeah.
And also, I wanted to say that John Carty investigation kind of had both elements. You know, when you have investigation 5 on August 6, 2021 at this guy's apartment in Philadelphia, where basically he had some markings that define a human explanation on his legs. And basically, he also has basically a lot of, you know, he's actually captured a lot of, like, you know, type of alien heads and different types of things on his photos that we've actually got enhanced from, you know, Rick enhanced them, and you could see different kinds of shapes and figures from those photos. And also, I would like to say he's had his sheets like pulled off by himself. So this client, we want to protect his identity, but he had a lot of interesting things happen where this case, in my opinion, was kind of both extraterrestrial and ghost kind of rolled into one.
And that's a very good example of how, you know, two people can, you know, one person could experience things on both ends.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a question in the chat. Melissa, have you ever seen someone get attachments on them from something?
Not necessarily during our investigations. The closest thing that I feel that we've all experienced is feeling ill after one of our investigations, and it's the one that was just mentioned at this apartment where this gentleman, you know, felt that he was experiencing both extraterrestrial and spirits, you know, activity in his apartment. So I'm not sure that that's why we came out of there feeling, you know, ill and drained afterwards. I feel that it's because there was a lot of negative, you know, just really bad stuff that happened in that place. I tuned into that there was a young gentleman that took his own life. So I believe that left a negative imprint, and just a really heavy, just icky feeling in the gentleman's bedroom. And this is where he, as it was mentioned, was having experiences about his sheets being pulled off of his bed. We were getting a lot of responses with our equipment in that room. And it got to the point where just the negative energy, it was so draining. And, you know, I felt downright sick. I and I believe Rick had to leave that room. And I believe that for the next week, all 4 of us investigators felt ill from that experience. So I don't believe that any of us brought anything home with us after our investigations, but there have been times where we did not feel good and we felt extremely drained. That's probably the closest thing, that's the closest attachment, if you will. Not necessarily the spirit, but the feeling afterwards. Because the one thing that we have to keep in mind is that just like spirits will drain our equipment, our batteries, they will also drain from us as well. They will drain our energy too. So the one thing that we have to be mindful of when we go into these locations is to also come in there protected, not fearful, but yes, yep. Yeah, come in there protected, you know, so we don't bring home anything. That nothing attaches themselves to us or our equipment. You know, it's very important. So I believe so far we've come out of there okay. Every place we've been to, nothing has followed us home. But it's important that we protect our energy, because nobody wants to leave an investigation feeling ill afterwards. I know that goes without saying.
Mhm.
So,
Melissa,
Yeah.
have you used Reiki for protection? And is there anywhere in the paranormal realm and what you do where Reiki could interface with that? Or curious.
honestly, Reiki, I believe that it could restore your energy after an investigation. That's probably the most that I'm familiar with as far as how those two would coincide. I believe that would be a really good practice. Coming out of there, we sage ourselves before and after we bless ourselves. But I do believe that using Reiki can certainly help to restore you and to rebalance you. So I do believe, I do feel that is a great suggestion, for anybody who practices Reiki, and if they happen to do this sort of thing, I think it's definitely beneficial. Absolutely.
I have one more question, then I'll give it over to Augie. Got my question. Hold on. Okay. Have you ever considered or offered to help any of these entities, whatever it is, energies, go to the light?
Not yet.
Yeah. Good, Joshua.
Sure, not yet. We haven't had a case yet where we've had to help somebody move on. Although I will say there is another location that we are looking into for investigation 8, based out of a client in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And so far, we suggested to the client that they try using, positive things like, holy water, as well as potentially sage to burn it to see if that can work. And if that does not work, we can do a complete cleansing of that client's property. So I think that potential thing might be coming on the next investigation that we're doing. We're going to work with this client to ensure that if there is a spirit that needs to cross over, we're going to make sure we get it to where it needs to be. And by using some of the methods that we have used and learned on our investigations, we'll definitely make sure that if that's what the spirit wants to do, and that spirit feels ready and he feels trapped there, we're going to help it get to where it needs to be. So I think coming in with an open mind, coming in with respect to the every spirit helps us go a long way into basically getting a direct response from them.
I want to say too, though, what Joshua mentioned about coming in investigation. There's some paranormal investigation groups that they come in and investigate a place, and sometimes they don't come out with anything. They don't come out with any evidence or anything. I will say for myself personally, every case that I've worked on with our team, we've always come back with some type of evidence. And I think the reason for that, a lot of it is our approach, okay? Because it's like, when you think of when you're dealing with people in the public and you're asking for help or assistance, or you want them to acknowledge you, you're going to talk to them in a respectful manner rather than just demanding answers, like saying, I demand you talk to me now, or I demand that you throw something across the room. A lot of times that really doesn't work, because just like people in person that are the living, when you ask them something respectfully and in a nice way, you're going to get better results than if you just say, okay, you do an EVP session and you must talk to me now. No, we don't do it that way. We acknowledge every investigation that we go into, that any spirits that are there, we acknowledge to them that this is your home. And thank you for allowing us to be there and conduct this an investigation. And we always tell them that, we come in peace. We don't mean any kind of harm. And we would love it if you would talk to us today and answer any questions we might have. And we actually found that we really get good results by doing that.
That's nice.
Another thing that
Really nice.
Another
Sorry,
thing that I
Augie.
can think of is Have you ever tried to leave them written messages? Because just because they're dead, they can still read.
Well, actually, we have a device that does kind of that. We actually have, of course, the Ovilus 5, which is basically like where they can, put words on responses basically on our using the EMF field. So this is a theory device created by ITC research guy by the name of Bill Chappell, who basically designs paranormal investigation equipment for Ghost Adventures. He's their primary gear tech. And the theory with the Ovilus is it uses the words and responses on dictionary mode to say what the spirits are saying. So they can kind of tell us in their own words. Basically, then we go ahead and we also do environmental data with the paranormal Puck 2, which does barometric pressure, humidity, and all that. So we use those two devices kind of as companions that we feel based upon all the information, like, for us to interact with the living and for them to interact with us, using, having like a thing like the Ovilus really helps validate, some of the readings that we have with Melissa,
Mm-hmm.
Another thing too is like, spirits will sometimes they will latch on to communicating with certain devices and not on others. We find this happens quite frequently. And so for an example, we have different gadgets that the alarms will go off and, LED lights, colored lights will blink off to let you know that some type of spiritual activity had tried to touch the object. And, and they'll be, sometimes they could be very selective on what type of device that they want to communicate with. You might have like, it could be something as simple as just, turning a light on and off, or, maybe some type of a box that's got a little colored light on it that goes out, something simple. Or it could be something like a K2 meter that it wants to activate off that. So it really kind of depends, what they want to do. And it's almost like if you think of, kids walking into a playground, and some kids will decide to play with this toy, but not that toy. You can almost kind of equate it to something similar to that. So they'll kind of like choose, what objects they want to communicate with. So it's good to have a variety of equipment to work with, definitely.
Yeah. And Melissa, you're also a remote viewer. So are you able to use that in some way, maybe to observe a location at a distance?
Yes. So I have taken some courses on remote viewing, and I have the basic idea of how it all works. So what I found that's interesting with what I've learned, the skills I've learned with remote viewing and how that can be applied to our investigations, I have been able to tune into these these locations rather, well before we have investigated them. I'm able to start to pick up some information, whether it's the history of the place or this was mind blowing. Our very first investigation, my very first investigation with Phantom Detectives was at the Selma Mansion. And 2 weeks prior to us investigating, I was getting visions of Abraham Lincoln. I would tune into that location. Obviously, I've never been there. And I go into these investigations blindly. I am not to know any history about the place, who's haunting the place. It has to be just complete, nothing. So I started getting visions of Abraham Lincoln having to do with this particular location. And I mentioned it to Joshua, and I said, what would Abraham Lincoln possibly have to do with the Selma Mansion? And he says, Abraham Lincoln's wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, that mansion belonged to her great-grandfather, Andrew Porter. So situations like that, I believe, is a form of remote viewing. And those skills have helped me during our investigations in that way. That's one example. So it's definitely interesting. It's interesting to be able to tune into these locations without me having ever set foot in there. So I believe it's maybe a form of remote viewing combined with something called psychometry, where, you gain, you tune into these places and you receive that information. And also just objects in the location, whether you touch that object or you're just picking up information, like say maybe there's a piano in this mansion. I may be able to start picking up on who did this belong to, maybe what era it's from. So it's definitely interesting how all of these skills, if you will, come together and help me, tune into these things. And then Joshua and Rick know beforehand the history and the reported hauntings. So they're able to verify whatever I'm tuning into. And then we also use our equipment as well to also verify, these things. As I mentioned, maybe, I'm tuning into the spirit of an angry woman. And as Rick mentioned, at that particular location where I was picking up on this angry woman, we started picking up on, we picked up profanities coming through our ghost box. So it's interesting how our evidence all comes together, how we all work together. And that's what makes it authentic, if you will. So yeah, it's interesting for sure. Mm-hmm.
In the chat room, somebody asked, it kind of went by now, but what was the most extraordinary or the strangest thing you've ever experienced that you can't understand?
I would say for us, once again, going back to the Selma mansion, we just had so much stuff happen during that investigation on June 25th, 2021. That location was just phenomenal. Like the minute that Melissa walked in, she basically had to walk back out and then basically walk back in before we even set the equipment up, because she was feeling, the good news is, like, she was feeling down very welcoming spirit of a servant lady by the name of Martha or Margaret. I can't remember the exact one, but she was feeling Martha. Yeah. And basically we also captured her image on a thermal, the thermal camera. Basically you could see like a dress and a silhouette of from the FLIR thermal imaging camera, which picks up hot and cold signatures. And they use a lot of the thermal cameras on, like when they locate missing persons. And David Pallades of Missing 401, he's the head of that organization, and they use thermal cameras all the time to locate missing people. So during that investigation, we also captured in the up in the upstairs location up, there's a thing called the doll room up there on the highest floor, and we actually stayed on one part of that actual place. Basically, we stayed on one side because the other side we felt very uneasy that there was somebody there trying to protect the children, this middle-aged man. And the funny thing is, during that the investigation, we had a guest investigator with us that name by the name of Ashley Yeager. She's a friend of Bill Freeman's, the Selma Mansion museum manager. And basically she joined us for a little while. And basically her husband walked in just to pick her up, I guess because she was getting ready to leave. And basically all of a sudden he says, "Hey, were one of you guys looking out the window of the Selma Mansion on the third floor?" And we said, "No, we weren't even anywhere near the third floor." And basically, I said, "There's no way we could have been up there, because this person saw the silhouette of an apparition of a person looking out the door at him." And could this have been General Andrew Porter? Absolutely. I was picking up on that the minute, and he seemed like he's very, also what was interesting was during that investigation, I was downstairs manning the DVR cameras, just watching them. And then basically Rick, Melissa, and Sasha were all picking up multiple things. The EMF meter was going off. The REM pod was going off. The Paranology's electroscope was going off. It picks
the
up
scare bear was going off. Yeah,
the scare bear was going off. So we were getting multiple things going off all at once. And then after all the investigators left, I went back up there and I saw. Literally, we didn't have a camera on at that time, but I saw one of the actual doors of right inside that room fly open by itself, like one of those little pulley doors on the bottom. So that was very interesting. That basically the Selma Mansion, I thought, was the most interesting experience that we had.
The other thing too was in that basement. I mean, there was spirit activity that clearly did not want us there at all. And I remember when we were using the dowsing rods to ask questions, and I had asked the question about, if there was someone murdered there in the home. And I got a yes response that, was very clear that somebody was murdered there in the house. And, we were getting, it was a combination of like, good spirits versus bad spirits all wrapped into one place. It's like, take your pick, it could be downstairs, it could be on the second floor or the third floor. But on the, but in that basement, I mean, we're clearly getting some negative energy that something down there evil didn't want us there.
I wanted to say, during that part of the investigation, our DVR camera captured like this black mass, basically right near the area where you guys were sitting with the chairs. There was, I think Sasha captured that on a Zuzi DVR camera that we had at the time, and you could see like a black mass of a shadow kind of rising up under the chair. I think that's on the investigation section of the website. So when you have that validation, and then basically the camera is going off multiple times, and then when I was watching the camera when you guys were down there, also one of the REM pods basically was going off in the piano room. So that was a very interesting experience as well. So it's almost like as soon as I would go walk in there, it would stop. And then all of a sudden when I would leave, it would continue. It's almost like they're trying to play with us, Yeah,
the way the K2 meters going off like crazy too.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of murder, have you guys ever helped solve any murders or crimes or anything like that?
We actually have a medium on the team, actually, that has solved murders and crimes. He's our fourth member. He's not presently here. They call him Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer. He is basically a world-renowned psychic medium. He actually went to, I think, Yale University. He also has written like 4 or 5 books. His newest book, called The Afterlife Frequency, is out in bookstores now, and basically was one as an Amazon bestseller, New York Times bestseller. And basically he has solved a high-profile cases. He's worked with law enforcement and so forth. And I could definitely get you guys in touch with him to do his with the show.
Yes,
I'll give
sorry.
We have 3 minutes left.
Yeah, I see that. Why don't you just talk about where people can reach you and also what you do? And I know you, Melissa, are giving readings, and speak a little bit about that. And also, Rick, you are involved in this UFO investigation. So, hey, we see those things all the time. Maybe you could also talk about that. And Joshua, just get us know maybe where are you going from here also. So just the floor is yours.
Okay, so for our first two websites, Phantom, PHANTOM Detectives, DETECTIVES, phantomdetectives.org is our website for all things as it relates to the team. And anyone that wants to contact us or talk to us through there, that's our investigation team website. Also, we have darkmatternews.com, which will actually used to belong to Leo Ashcraft, who used to work for the late Art Bell on Midnight in the Desert. This was the primary news service of his final return ever. We bought the rights to the name, the logos, and we rebranded it under our ownership. And that's darkmatternews.com, which is a paranormal news hub where people can send us things about ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, anything else out there. We do have that website, and Rick can tell you his two websites for his UFO investigation team. So again, anybody that wants to that is interested in research or knowledge-based learning more about the subject of UFO matter, you can visit the website called ERC, which stands for Extraterrestrial Research Center, and that could be found at www.erc2explore.com. So it's erc2explore.com. And you can feel free to hop on the website and check out some of our latest cases about things on research. And, we have a great glossary of information on UFO terms. There's a lot of videos. So there's a lot of fun things there to check out, as well as our other websites as well. So please feel free to visit that. And Melissa, do you want to say where people can reach you at for possibly a reading or something of some sort?
Yes. So you can find me on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page, It's under Psychic Medium Autumn, obviously on Facebook.com. And I also have a website. It's just wanted to verify because it's been updated. So it's under psychicmediumautumn.com. And there I do mediumship readings, psychic readings, dream analysis, and I did study life coaching. So sometimes I incorporate that into readings as well. And I also have sessions where I help people develop their own, unique abilities. Because many people reach out with, questions. They're having certain experiences, and how can they enhance their own unique gifts? And I do help them with that as well. So, yep.
Very nice. Really great, you guys. Really great.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, thank you for being with us. This was good.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you. Thank you for
Come
having
back.
me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Augie. Thank you, Nori. Thank you, Rick,
Well-
Melissa.
Hey, thank you,
you.
gang. It's been
Yeah.
awesome. It's been a blast.
Definitely.
Yep. Now we're down to the end of the show here, so we will have it up and posted pretty soon, and then we will talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening. Take
Yep.
care.
Have a great
you.
evening.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.